Katie, I'm here with a fractured leg for you. For very few others, and of course, for our family. I think you would like us to be bare-breasted by the pond, drinking a wee bit and sharing our memories, and maybe that is yet to happen if Sophie invites us. Kate, you took your last breath on earth in the city you loved most, Paris, the city which once welcomed expatriates Gertrude, Alice, Pablo, Ernest, and Sir James of Dublin, and where the early morning aroma of fresh bread was reason enough for you to rise too, early. I finally understood you in historical context, but only when I read Andrea Weiss's Paris Was a Woman, Portraits from the Left Bank. Then I recognized your culture, one in which sophisticated and talented lesbians took many lovers. I called them sluts, competed against each other for sexual favors, slept with their lovers' lovers, and everyone became lifelong friends, or sometimes abandoned the group entirely. Just as you belonged to so many cities, just so you had so many different selves. You were many different Kates. You were Kate, the highly ceremonial hostess, offering your guests wine as if it were a libation to the gods, floating little candlelit paper boats out on the lake, at the farm for the Japanese holiday of Obon. And you were also Kate, the raging mad queen, Kate, the unbearably humble, Kate, the increasingly all too silent. I miss you, Kate. Talky Kate. You were the most cosmopolitan, the most European identified of our feminist intellectuals. Well, Andrea Dworkin was too. You believed that ideas really mattered and that intellectuals must lay their bodies down for the sake of revolution. True. You were also the Kate who could easily pass for a homeless person, out on the Bowery in blustery winter weather, trying to sell your farm-grown Christmas trees. Oh, how chapped your hands were, how red were your cheeks. I would go and try to give her coffee, talk the talk. You were Kate, the sharecropper farmer, who, like Gerald and Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, were adamant that owning land is everything, and that land must be kept at all costs. You drove a tractor, cut wood, stood on dangerously high ladders to get at a falling roof. My son Ariel is here. She tried to teach him how to chop wood when he was 5 or 4, and she talked to him as if he was a grown-up, which I found very strange and endearing. Do you remember the time I visited one weekend when I was on a hard and fast deadline, and you demanded that I put my shoulder to the wheel, climb up to some unbearable height, to fix a roof. Come on, Chesler, she growled, you growled. Just get on the goddamn ladder and help me do this. I was horrified, terrified, flabbergasted. But you would not let go of me until I at least planted a victory garden of flowers by your side, something I'd never done before or since. But even as Kate the farmer, you still sometimes drank your morning coffee in a French ceramic bowl. I thought that was very elegant. And always made little toasts at dinner and were at all times surrounded by books and by bookshelves, white bookshelves. Your sexual politics was perhaps the most influential, certainly the most famous of the second wave feminist books, although we all stood on the shoulders of the brilliant articles and demonstrations that preceded us from 1966 and a half on. Extraordinary pamphlets. I read them, I ate them like candy. That same year, Shuli Firestone published her equally amazing The Dialectic of Sex. In Flying, I loved that book. You captured the energy of the early days of breakneck feminism, activism, as well as the unexpected cruelty among feminists. And you also described what it was like to experience fame as something of a human sacrifice. I went to Kate's editor at Doubleday for Women in Madness, and Betty took me into the bathroom once and said, "I need you to do something." What might that be? "Can you please tell Kate to take out the lesbian parts from Flying?" So I laughed. I said, no, I wasn't going to do that, and they canceled the contract. You were prescient about the ways in which some of the same women who were inspired by your work would turn on you because you were famous and something of a genius, and they were not. She wrote about that. "I saw it all, I missed nothing. But I also saw how you, in your own way, exacted your due in this particular devil's bargain. Katie, you were tireless, relentless in trolling the dark side on behalf of women's freedom, and you did so doggedly, even during the dark days, the dog days, the days of despair. In the Basement, Meditations on a Human Sacrifice, you more than equaled Truman Capote and Norman Mailer. In your nonfiction novel about the physical and sexual torture murder of a 16-year-old girl, Sylvia Likens, in Indianapolis, at the hands of the ringleader, a middle-aged woman named Gertrude Banashevsky, her teenage son and daughter, and some neighborhood children. They tortured Sylvia most horribly for weeks and then carved, 'I'm a prostitute and proud of it,' into Sylvia's skin. The details are unbearable. How did you bear it? Did you? She did an art exhibit, and there was Sylvia, dressed in Kate's clothing, with a wig that was like Kate's hair, and I did a real double and triple take. I was taken quite aback. In going to Iran, we wondered, how are we going to get Kate out? How are we going to get Sophie out? We don't have feminist Air Force One. We have no ground troops. Even Khomeini let her go. I was so relieved. And the very next year, they asked me, the same fellow, Reza Barahini, invited me to come on International Women's Day. "You understand the Muslim soul. You've been with us. Come." I said, "I wouldn't even come with platoons of Marines." No. But there in that book, she truly grasped the misogynist nature of an Islamic theocratic regime that would go on to murder its best and its brightest. In The Loony Bin Trip, you described being locked up for mental illness, or as you would have it, for your political beliefs, not true, and the terrible toll such imprisonment took upon you, how offended your dignity was, and about the bouts of solitary confinement in the bin were for you literally torture, given that you were claustrophobic. Gloria and I worked on getting you out of the second loony bin in Minnesota. That's another story. Even I had a hard time with the politics of cruelty, but I soldiered on. It's about political torture. But I soldiered on fearing that your graphic depiction of state-administered torture had either become a dangerous obsession or was your way of controlling your terror about it. Katie, I want to thank you for your generosity, for always trying to include me, and for suggesting that others do so too. You introduced me to extraordinary women. Many of them are here. Some of them are speaking. Some have passed on, died in short. And as you know, some of these women became very dear to me. It was a privilege to be your friend. I will never forget you. You symbolized a moment in history, and I have this to say about it. Despite everything, despite anything, I wouldn't have missed this revolution, not for love or money. I remain forever loyal to that moment in time, that collective awakening which set me free from my former life as a girl. Allow me to paraphrase Shakespeare's King Henry V's most memorable speech. She that outlives this day and comes safe home, then will she strip her sleeve and show her scars and say, these wounds I had. This story shall the good woman teach her children. From this day to the ending of the world, but we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of sisters, for she, today that sheds her blood with me, shall be my sister, be she near so vile. This day shall gentle her condition, and gentlewomen everywhere now abed shall think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their humanity cheap, while any speak that fought with us.
My cane, my cane.